Republican Congressman Buddy Carter is the only pharmacist serving in Congress. During this Congressional Freshman Profile, he talks about his career, family, and life on Capitol Hill. Mr. Carter won the seat formerly held by Republican Jack Kingston. This is 25 Minutes.
Congressman Buddy Carter from Georgia's 1st Congressional District. You're new to this job. Is this what you expected?
Well, there have been some surprises, I will tell you that. Even though I am new to this job, I'm not new to public service. I've actually served as a mayor. I was a mayor for 9 years, and then I've served in the state legislature for 10 years. So I've had quite a bit of experience in the political arena, but I can tell you that this is different from anything I've ever done before.
How so?
Well, first of all, it's a full-time job. You know, even when I was mayor, it was mayor of a relatively small town at that time. At least when I started. By the time I finished, it was larger, much larger. But and then the state legislature was only, you know, a 40-day session every year. So we were in session from the second Monday in January until usually March or April, the end of March or the 1st of April. In fact, that was one of the biggest adjustments that I had to make. When I was up here around the end of March, the middle of April, I was thinking, okay, it's time to go home, and they told me you can't go home. So, you know, that's probably the biggest adjustment, just that it's 24/7.
Where is Pooler, Georgia? You served as mayor from when till when?
I served as mayor of Pooler from 1996 to 2004. And Pooler is actually, Savannah is a suburb of Pooler, or actually Pooler is a suburb of Savannah. It's on the coast. It's in coastal Georgia, down in southern Georgia, and actually my district, I represent the entire coast of Georgia, over 100 miles.
So why did you decide to give up a part-time political job and go full-time in Congress?
Well, actually, my predecessor, Jack Kingston, held this seat for 22 years, and I had always aspired to serve at this level, and of course, Jack did such a wonderful job and was so popular back home. I had to kind of wait until he got ready to leave before I had the opportunity, but you know, and I got kind of frustrated at times, but then I realized, you know, what a great opportunity to serve as a mayor, to serve in the Georgia State Legislature, and you know, God has a way of slowing us down and making sure that we understand that it's His plan and not our plan.
In fact, behind me there is an editorial cartoon of Congressman Kingston passing the baton on to you. Where is that from?
That's actually from the Savannah Morning News. That was the sworn in January 6th of this year, which is my oldest son's birthday. Jack's family and my family are very close. Jack's oldest son was my oldest son's wedding, and they went to school together, good friends. His youngest son and my youngest son were in the same fraternity at the University of Georgia, so our families are very close, and Jack has been a great mentor to me, and I appreciate his help very much.
Where'd you go to college?
Actually, my first 2 years, I went to what was then a junior college, Young Harris College in the North Georgia Mountains, a Methodist school. And then I transferred to the University of Georgia, where I attended pharmacy school. Back then, it was a 3-year degree for pharmacy. Now it's a 4-year degree, a doctor of pharmacy degree, but I have a bachelor of pharmacy degree.
And why pharmacy?
You know, when I was in high school, I was a wannabe athlete, you know, and unfortunately, not only was I short, but I was also slow. And it just didn't work out the way that I had hoped it would. And I made a deal with my dad. I said, Dad, if you know, if Nebraska or Oklahoma hasn't sent a scout out to see me after my junior year, then I'll get more serious about a job. And I don't know what happened, but they didn't send a scout out. And anyway, I decided I better get a job, and I did. And I got a job in a pharmacy as a delivery boy, and it was just perfect for me. I loved it. I love health care. I love helping people. I love the retail, interacting with customers, and I was very, very fortunate because I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I got into college, and I went and I did it.
I see the football is behind you, Georgia, Georgia Tech. Pretty big rivalry.
There is a big rivalry, and certainly I represent the state of Georgia, so I have to, you know, not show partisanship so much. But
you graduated from the University of Georgia.
I did, and I am an avid dog fan. So, but you know, as long as they're not playing Georgia, I pull for Georgia Tech.
And how did you make the transition from being a pharmacist to politics?
You know, that's I get asked that question quite often because right now I'm the only pharmacist in Congress, and and people do ask me that, but I've always been interested in politics and always been interested in public service. Growing up, I was very active in my church and held leadership roles. When I was at Young Harris, I was president of the freshman class, very active as time went on. When I got out of school, of course, I was working, and my wife and I were starting our careers. But when I opened my own business on November 28th of 1988, I knew I needed to get involved in my community even more. So I served for 4 years on the Planning and Zoning Committee and chaired that committee before I ran for City Council and was elected Mayor Pro Tem, and then 2 years later was elected Mayor.
So having served as mayor where you can get something done, compare that to being here in Congress.
Very, very different. There are some things that you can carry over. For instance, I often say that when I became mayor, the first thing I learned was how to count to 4, because if I couldn't get 4 votes, I couldn't get anything done. So I had to learn how to count to 4 real quick. But you're right, you can get a lot done as a mayor, and particularly when I was mayor of the city of Pooler, because our population in the city of Pooler in 1996 was 4,500 people, and when I left as mayor in 2004, we were up to 19,000. We had phenomenal growth, and I'd rather be lucky than good. We just hit it at the right time, and most of that growth was new rooftops, and it presented a lot of challenges, and a lot of that growth was people moving out of Savannah into the suburbs and into Pooler, young families, and we really hit the housing boom just at the right time, and it was quite an experience. But we had a lot of big decisions that had to be made, and we made those decisions. And then when I got into the state legislature, it was the same in the sense that when you have a 40-day session, you can actually, at the beginning of the session, introduce a bill and then carry it all the way through either the House or the Senate, and then get it to the other body, and then get it signed by the governor and have a law passed within 40 days. Whereas up here, wow, it can be very frustrating. You can work for years and years just to get an amendment passed.
Well, let me ask you about probably one of the most important jobs of any community is zoning and planning. So you obviously had to do that when you were the mayor of Pooler. Mm-hmm. And you can travel to a community and realize which ones are doing it right and which ones are doing it wrong. So how do you do it right? What are the lessons and what are the pitfalls?
Well, I think the lessons are, proper planning can save you so many headaches if you would just do it correctly, and if you have proper zoning, if you have things in the right areas. And you have to have community input with that. You have to have the community to voice their concerns, and professional planners really do a good job with that. They really do a good job in setting it up and making it flow. You don't want to have one type of business that's not compatible to another right beside each other. You want it to, be in certain areas. But it is vitally important, I will tell you that. And down the road, it can save you so much financially if you do it correctly. And we learned that very quickly in Pooler.
So when you serve here in Congress, and so much debate within the House Republican Conference, leadership issues and the like, does that frustrate you when you try to work on legislation and everyone is talking about internal politics?
Well, it does. It can be very, very frustrating. I came up here with a clear agenda. I want to do something, and I want to do something about our national debt. I consider our national debt to be one of the greatest threats to our national security. And, I'm the father of 3 sons, the grandfather of twin granddaughters, and then we have a son on the way. And I want them to enjoy the same vibrant and growing economy that we've enjoyed in my generation. Every generation wants the next generation to have it better. Well, unless we change things, I'm not sure the next generation is going to have it as good as we had it. And we've got to do something about our national debt. We've got to address that issue. We've got to address the issue of health care in our country. We've got to address the issue of our military and the cuts that have been happening to our military. And, we've got to get a balanced budget. We've got to do all those things. And then you get up here and you get into these internal strifes that we've seen here recently. And, yeah, it can be very frustrating because we've got a lot of serious issues in this country. Coming in here, I knew the social issues, I knew the state and the local issues, but quite honestly, I had to do a lot of catching up with foreign affairs. I had not traveled much in my life.